This is my next topic about Joe Biden's midterm election. If anyone's watching right now, even if it's the afternoon or the morning, feel free to call me, ask me some questions. You know, the guy was born and raised in Delaware, trying to fight for what's right back then. Doing another hour long event is not easy to think. There's so much stuff to talk about the midterm election right now. Getting 60 U.S. Democratic senators elected is not easy. You know, the worst part is, Joe Biden's doing everything he can to lobby to get 60 Democratic senators to vote to get them elected. And right now, they're not gonna. Right now, it's not gonna vote for to reinstate the Roe versus Wade bill until the midterm election's over and until the senators get sworn in. You know, I don't know if it's impossible to get 60 U.S. senators elected, 60 Democratic senators elected. The Democratic Party is a tough race. No matter how much times we're lobbying, it's really tough. But we know overturning Roe versus Wade is bad for the country right now. Besides, right now, all it did is attract bad protesters, and also it's also bad for the country that you took away women's rights from them, or choices. Besides, Roe versus Wade wasn't just women's rights; it's also men's rights too. They didn't even look at Republicans didn't even look at the. You guys looked at the cons, but they never looked at the pros. And that's not good for us right now. And each state is is publicly campaigning to get 60 Democrat senators in the Senate seat. I know how tough it is to get them on board right now. Right now, this is an hour-long video right now, and I'm doing everything I can to get people to come. Besides, I'm not like I could lecture for an hour because I had no idea what to say. But I can tell you one thing is, even from all my videos about trying to get Roe versus, trying to help speaking about Joe Biden and how he's trying to lobby 60 U.S. senators in the midterm election. Right now, there are other events out there, even between the Hurricane Ian and other hurricanes survivor course. Even we're doing everything we can to restore homes, people's lives, and everything back to the way it was. It's not easy trying to recover from hurricanes. Try to recover from earthquakes or floods. It's not easy doing that a lot of times. Even there was also tornadoes. A lot of times we have great insurance and a great relief program from the Red Cross to help us recover from all this stuff. That's the reason why we donate a lot of money for them to help them recover. They weren't just trying to save their lives, but also repair. Give them medicine and also repair housings, and everything. That's what the Red Cross stands for back then, and other philanthropical units were doing for our country. Give me a minute. I'm going to take a breather, and while there, I'm going to read a passage. Fourscore. And just remember one thing, that why we need Roe versus Wade, and why we should motivate ourselves. Abraham Lincoln may have been a Republican, but deep down he was a Democrat at heart. All he was trying to do is fight for rights for every equal guy from African Americans. And here's a passage he always says in the Gettysburg Address that kept motivating the Union from winning against the South, against the Confederates. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we're engaged in a civil war, testing whether the nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battle of the war. We have done to dedicate the portions of the field as a final resting place for those who gave their lives that nation might live. It's altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate and we cannot consecrate and we cannot hollow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated far above our poor power to add and distract the world will live no longer what we say here, but can forget what they did here. It is for us to living rather than us to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they fought here, and have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be dedicated to the great risk remaining before us, and that these from honor dead, and we take increased devotion to all those which given the last of all measure of devotion, that we're highly resolved that these dead shall have not died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, should not perish from earth. And that is the Gettysburg Address. Just remember to remind Joe Biden what we're fighting for. We are fighting to reinstate Roe versus Wade, and we should get the 60 U.S. senators. Just remember this proclamation right here. There are other proclamations, and I can give you. There are other proclamations out there we should think about. But like I said, this is an hour-long video. Well, here's a proclamation, and I'm not going to bore you with the details of the Declaration of Independence right now. We, therefore, the representation of the United States in General of Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the rule of the recitants, restitute of intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies and the right to be free, independent states, that they absolve the allegiance to the British Crown, and that political connections between the state of Great Britain and is not to be totally dissolved, and the free of the independent states, they have full power to levy the war, conclude peace, contract, alliance, establish commerce, do all these acts and things independent states have a right to do, and for the support of the Declaration with the firm reliance, protection, we must pledge each of our lives for our fortunes and our sacred honor. There's more passage in the Declaration of Independence I want to read, because why we're lobbying, why men like us are lobbying to get this thing going. He has refused the sentence of the law, the most wholesome necessary for the public good. He has forbidden the governors to pass laws that immediately in pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till the assent should be attained, and when so suspended and neglected to attend them. He has refused to pass other laws, the large districts of peoples, unless the people have relinquished the rights of representation in the legislature, the right to assemble to them, and for to tyrants only. He has called together the legislative bodies at places unusual and uncomfortable distance from the depository of the public records, and the sole purpose of fatiguing them in the compliance with his measures. He has dissolved the representation in the House, and for opposing mainly firmness invasion of the rights of the people. He refused a long time for such disposition to be elected, so with the legislative power capable of annihilation have returned to the people large for the exercise, and the state remaining meant exposed to dangers of invasion from without, the convulsion within. I'm gonna skip the other parts, get the others. For protecting them from a mock trial, for punishment for murders which they have committed on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting all trades with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on without our consent, for depriving us in many cases in the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting beyond the sea and try to pretend offense, for abolishing the system of English laws in a neighboring province, establish arbitrary government, and enlarging the boundaries so renders one example for the fit instruction introducing the same absolute rule of these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our valuables, and altering the fundamentals of forms of government, for spending our own legislature and declaring themselves invested the power to legislate in all cases whatsoever. So I'm gonna read this last part, if it's okay with you. So bear with me. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judges of the world for the reluctant restitute of their intentions due in the name and authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly published and declared that these United colonies are the right to be free of independent states, that the absolve and the allegiance of the British Crown, that all political connections between the state of Great Britain and is ought to be dissolved, and that as a free independent states, that they have full power to levy war, we conclude peace, and contract, establish commerce, do all the acts and things independent states have a right to do. Of all the support, the Declaration, the firm reliance, and the protection of divine providence, we must pledge to each other to live our lives in our sacred honor. Sorry about that. That's a passage of the Declaration of Independence. I was gonna read the whole thing, but I don't think I'm gonna bore you for an hour right now. There were a lot of guys out there who signed the Declaration of Independence. So I'll give you the name. I'll give you the names. I'm not gonna bore you, but I'll give you the names myself. New Hampshire, Joasa Bartlett, William Whipple, and Matthew Thornton. In Massachusetts, Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Robert Treat Payne, and Eldridge Gerry. Rhode Island, Stephen Hawkins and William Mallory. Connecticut, Robert Sherman, Samuel Huntington, William Williams, Oliver Walcott. New York, William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Francis Lewis, and Lewis Morris. New Jersey, Richard Stockton, John Witherspoon, Francis Hopkins, John Hart, and Abraham Clark. In Virginia, George Wythe, Richard Henry Lee, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Harris, Thomas Nelson Jr., Francis Lightfoot, and Carter Baxton. North Carolina, William Hopper, Joseph Hughes, and John Penn. In South Carolina, Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward Jr., Thomas Lynch Jr., Arthur Middleton. Georgia, Button Gwynwood, Lyman Hall, and George Walton. I'm not going to bore you about who were all the signatures back then. And why Joe Biden is lobbying. I sent a lot of videos out here trying to people to help Joe Biden out. Help him get this law passed to reinstate Roe versus Wade. I know what Roe versus Wade is, but I am not going to bore you out about it. But it is women's right to get an abortion. I can give you all the pros about it, but I'm going to leave that out because I don't know if you guys want to hear it, or do you guys want to hear it? But women do have rights, just like the men in the Declaration of Independence and the Gettysburg Address, and what we were fighting for back then. Well, I'm not going to bore you about details about the I Have a Dream speech from Martin Luther King Jr., but I will read a passage of his the I Have a Dream speech. What reason why he fought for African American equal rights back then. I have a dream that one day the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slave owners will be will sit down together and table brotherhood. I have a dream that one day that even the state of Mississippi has swayed a sweltering heat of justice, and the sweltering heat of oppression will be transformed to an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that four little children one day will live in a nation where it will not be judged by the color of their skin and by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day in Alabama, with vicious racists, with its governor having a lips dripping with the words of interpression and multiplication, one day is right down the Alabama little black boys and black girls will able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day that every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low, to the rough places will be made in plain, and crooked places will be straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. It's all flesh shall we see it together. This is our hope. This is our faith. And I go back to the south with the faith we are able to hew out the mountain of despair of stone of hope. With the faith that we are able to transform the jangling discords of our nations is a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, for struggle together, to go to the. We will stand for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. That we will be one day of all God's children will be able to sing the new meaning. My country, 'tis thee, sweet land of liberty, and thee I sing. The land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. It's a great nation, this must be coming true, and so let the freedom ring. The British hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring from the White Mountains of New York, let freedom ring from the heights of altitudes of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of the California. But only that let freedom ring from the stone mountains of Georgia. Let freedom ring from the Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill from Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, we allow the freedom ring. We let the ring from every village and every hamlet and every state and every city. We will be able to speed up with all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics. We will join hands and sing the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. That was Martin Luther King's speech. I have a dream speech that everybody deserves equal rights, and why we are lobbying really hard for Roe versus Wade. When I read passages from the Gettysburg Address, from the Declaration of Independence, and I have a dream speech, what is it telling us every day? That Roe versus Wade is part of our freedom and part of their freedoms too. It didn't deserve to be in and didn't deserve to be overturned. And right now we are fighting really hard to keep our independence. Roe versus Wade is not just women's rights; it's every person's right. And people need that right to keep going. And it's also about a right. It's also a right to decide. There'll be other passages in hopes I can write about right now. I'm trying to think of one, too. Here's a passage Ronald Reagan that here's a passage for Ronald Reagan. That he spoke to that he was fighting to end communism, and why we were trying to fight, and why we were trying to end the Cold War. His speech that changed everything. Each president I ever met tried to end the Cold War back then before he arrived. But Ronald Reagan was the man who can, if anyone can end the Cold War, it would have been Ronald Reagan. Here is his speech about trying to break down the Berlin Wall. We welcome change and openness, but for we believe that the freedom and security go together, that the advance of human liberty can only strengthen the cause of world peace. There is one sign that Soviets can make that would be unmistakable. That would advance dramatically the cause of freedom and peace. General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace and you seek prosperity to the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek civilization, come here, come to this gate, Mr. Gorbachev. Open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. Tear down this wall. That speech inspired us to end the Cold War back then. And Ronald Reagan was our main guy who actually had a chance to end the Cold War. The only way we end the Cold War is to tear down the Berlin Wall. I wish it did. I'll read it again, one more time. Behind me stands a wall that entices the free sectors of this city, toward a vast system of barriers that divides the entire continent of Europe. Standing before the Brandenburg Gate, every man is a German separated from his fellow man. Every man is a Berliner forced to look up upon a scar. As long as the gate is closed, as long as the scar of a wall permitted to stand, it's not the German's question alone that remains open, but the question of freedom of all mankind. General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity of the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberation, and come here to this gate, Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And that's what we were fighting for back then. And that's what Roe versus Wade telling us that Mr. Gorbachev, tear down the wall. And also telling all our voters that reinstate Wade versus Gold, and tear down that wall. If you want to tear down the wall, reinstate Roe versus Wade and make sure it's stay down. It's torn down for good. Just like Martin Luther King Jr. trying to give us a fight for equal rights for African Americans. Just like in the Gettysburg Address, to get the Union to win against the Confederates. And just like the Declaration of Independence that I read about, that was to give America our freedom. Freedom is not about words. It's about a choice. It's about what we fight for every day. And that's what Joe Biden's fighting for every day. Anyone can make it. Anybody can just sit around and do nothing. But if you speak up and you listen, people will listen. And if you listen, we can change things. Changing things is not just sitting down. It's about speaking up in front of people and telling us what we think or what we do. It's one reason why we have YouTube. Here we get to speak up. Tell us our opinions, what we think. Our comments may not going to change the world every day, but we will speak up, and we will listen, and people will listen to us, and they can decide for themselves about what path they chose to do. There's a million proclamations out there I can think of right now. If you guys can think of some, just let me know. I have John F. Kennedy. I'm going to speak about a proclamation from John F. Kennedy in his inaugural speech about what he always said. And here's the speech from his inauguration what he spoke about how we can change America. Ronald Reagan speech about tearing down the Berlin Wall was the chance to end communism back then. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, I Have a Dream speech, is where he made a proclamation for African American to fight for equal rights and end racism. John F. Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln from the Gettysburg Address tells us about what we were fighting is for African American to be free, give them independence and freedom. Just like in the Declaration of Independence that I read about, but why we were fighting for our independences too, America's independence against our independence, our freedom. This is my proclamation. This is John F. Kennedy's proclamation from his inauguration address. In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in our hours of maximum danger. I do not shrink from responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people, any other generations. The energy, the faith, the devotion will bring the endeavors will light our country, who will serve it. The glow with fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what our country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together could do for the freedom of man. Finally, whether you citizens of America or citizens of the world, ask us with the highly standards of strength and sacrifice what we ask you. With a good conscience, our only sure reward, with history of the final judge of our deeds. Let us go and forth lead to the land we love. Ask us a blessing and his help, but we know from God's work that we must truly be on our own. And it is telling us that ask not what your country could do for you. Ask what you could do for your country. It means that if you want to lobby, if you want to reinstate Roe versus Wade, here's the thing: you get out there and vote for 60 U.S. senators and Democratic senators. Go in the voting booth and vote for them. I know my words is not different, but from John F. Kennedy's words, maybe it can motivate you. Or listen. And I will read it again one more time. It is a long history of the world. Only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from the responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us will exchange places with any other people of any other generations. The energy, the faith, the devotion which brings the endeavor light our country, and we serve it. And the glow of the fire can truly light this world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what you could do for your country. Ask what you could do for your country. Do for you. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not America will do for you, but what together we can do for freedom of a man. Finally, what the citizens of America or citizens of the world ask us the same high standards of strength and sacrifice which we ask you, with a good conscience, only such reward with history, the final judge of our deeds. Let us go forth to lead the land we love, ask his blessings and his help, but no one that here on earth's God's work must truly be our own. It was a great inauguration speech about what we're doing for America. And remember, I have a 1 hour video right now, and it's not easy trying to figure out what to say and what to say next. Here's Bill Clinton's inauguration speech that I read about. That I'm going to read about right now. Just give me a minute to breathe here before we get started. My fellow citizens, today we celebrate the mystery of American renewal. Thus, the ceremony is held in the depth of winter. By words as we speak, as the face we show the world. We force the spring, a spring reborn to the world's oldest democracy. It brings the visions and courage that reinvent America. When our founders boldly declared that America's independence in the world and our purpose of the Almighty, then they knew that the America to endure would have changed, not changed for the change's sake, but the change to preserve America's ideal, the liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Though we march to the music of our time, and our mission is timeless, each generation of Americans must define what it means to be an American. On behalf of our nation, I salute my predecessor, President Bush, for his half-century service of America. I thank millions of men and women who stay fast and sacrifice triumph over depression, fascism, and communism. Today, generation raised the shadows of the Cold War assumes new responsibilities in a world warmed by sunshine of freedom that threaten the ancient hatreds of new plagues. Raise and uphold, we inherited an economy and still the world's strongest, but weakened by business failure, stagnant wages, and increased inequity and deep divisions of our people. When George Washington first took the oath, I have just sworn to uphold, but news travels slowly across the land by horseback, across the ocean. Now, the site of the ceremony and broadcast is sending to millions of the world. Communications and commerce are global. Investments in it's mobile. Technology is almost magical. Ambition is better life now is universal. We will earn our livelihood in peaceful competition with its people on its earth. Profound the powerful forces by shaking and remarking our role. Search and question that we can make a change of our friend and not our enemy. The new world has already enriched the lives of millions of Americans who can compete and win it. But most people are working for harder for less and cannot work at all. The cost of health devastates and threatens to bankrupt many of our enterprises. Great small, with the fear of crime, robs law-abiding citizens of their freedom. And millions of poor children cannot even imagine the lives that we can call them to lead. Now we have not made a change of our friend. We now have to face the truth and take long, strong steps. But we have not done so. Instead, we have drifted. We must bring our task today to the visions and with those who came before us. From our revolution, the Civil War, the Great Depression, the Civil Rights Movement, our people have mustered determination and struck with these pillars of our history. Thomas Jefferson believed the presence of very foundation of our nation that we would need dramatic change from time to time. Well, my fellow citizens, this is our time. Let's embrace it. Our democracy must not be the envy of the world and the engine of our renewal. There is nothing wrong in America that cannot be cured. What is right for America? And so today we have pledged an end of an era of deadlock and drift, a new season, American renewal to begin with. To renew America, we must be bold. We must do what no generation did before. We invest more of our own people and their jobs in the future, and at the same time to cut the massive debt. We must do so in a world that we compete on our opportunity. It will not be easy. It requires sacrifice, but it can be done fairly. Not choosing to sacrifice for our own sake, but for its own sake, but our own sake. But we must provide our own nation in a way the family provides for its children. Our foundations saw themselves in the light of prosperity. We can do no less. Anyone who has ever watched a child's eye wander to the sleep what prosperity is. Prosperity is the world to come, the world of whom that we hold our ideas, from what we borrow from the planet, from what we bear sacred responsibility. We must do for America. We must do what America does best, to offer more opportunity to all and demand responsibility from all. It's time to break bad habit and expect something from nothing, from our government, from each other. Let's take more responsibility for our lives and our families, for our communities of our country. To renew America, we must revitalize the democracy. This beautiful capital, like every capital, is dawn of civilization. It's often a place of intrigue and calculation. Powerful people must maneuver the position and worry endlessly about who is in and who is out, who is up and who is down. Forgetting those people whose toil and sweat sent us here and praise our way. America deserves better. In the city today, these are the people we want to do better. And so I say to all of us that let us reform our politics so that power and privilege no longer shout down the voice of our people. Let us put aside advantages so that we can feel the pain and promise America. Let us resolve to make government a place where Franklin Roosevelt called bold, the presentation experimentation, our government of our tomorrow, not our yesterday. Let us give the capital back to the people whom it belongs. To renew America, we must challenge abroad as well as home. There is no longer a division between us foreign and what is domestic, and the world's economy, and the world's environment, the world's AIDS crisis, the world's arms race that affect us all. Today, as an old passes, the new world is free but less stable. Communism collapse as fourth amnesty, new dangers. Clear America must continue to lead the world. We do much to make. While America rebuilds its home, we will not shrink the challenge. We will not fail to seize the opportunity of this new world. Together with our friends and allies, we work to shape the change and let us engulf us. Yeah, I'm taking a break for that minute. Today, as an older passes, the new world must come more free but less stable. Communism collapse as the fourth old Nazis new danger. Clearly, America must continue to lead what we did as much make. While America rebuilds at home, we will not shrink the challenges and nor fail to seize the opportunities. In this new world together with our friends and allies, we will work together. We will work to shape change. Let it engulf us. When our vital interest is challenged, or there will be conscience that the international community is divided, we will act with peaceful diplomacy, whenever possible, with force when necessary. The braver Americans serving our nation today is the Persian Gulf and Somalia, and whenever they stand for this testament to our resolve, our greatest strength, but our greatest strength, the power of our ideas, which we are still in mainly lands. Across the world, we see embraced. We see embraced, and we rejoice. Our hopes, our hearts, our hands, with those every continent is building democracy and freedom. This cause is America's cause. The America people have some of the change that we celebrate today. You raised your voices in an unmistakable chorus. You have cast your votes in historic numbers, and now you have changed the face of Congress, the presidency, and the policy process itself. Yes, you, my fellow Americans, have forced the spring. Now we must do the work that seasons demand. It's not easy reading all the speech. And believe me, if anyone knows how tough it is to read this thing, you have to be really smart reading it. Then I'm giving myself a breather for a minute. Yes, you, my fellow Americans, have forced the springs. Now we must do the work that the season demands. To that work, I now turn. With all the authority in my office, I ask the Congress to join me. But no president, no Congress, no government can undertake the mission alone. My fellow Americans, you must play your part of a renewal. I challenge a new generation of young Americans, to a season of service, to act with your idealism by helping troubled children, keep the company with those who need, reconnecting our communities. There's so much to be done, enough to indeed millions of others who are still young in spirit to give themselves in service to. In serving, we recognize that the simple but powerful truth: we need each other. We must care for one another. Today, we do more than celebrate America. We rededicate ourselves to the very idea of America. An idea born in revolution, renewed the two continued of challenges. An ideal tempered by knowledge that but fate, the fortunate and unfortunate, must have been each other. An idea embodied by the faith that our nation can summon myriad diversity and the deepest measure unity. Any idea infused conviction that America's long heroic journey must go forward to. So, my fellow Americans, at the edge of the 21st century, let's begin with energy and hope, with faith and discipline. Let us work until our work is done. The sculpture says, let us know we are worthy of well-doing in due season, and if we faint not. Give myself a breather. My fellow Americans, at the edge of the 21st century, let us begin with energy and hope, with faith and discipline. Let us work until our work is done. The scripture says, "Let us not be weary of well being doing. For due season we shall reap, and we faint not." From our joyful mountaintop celebration, we are called to the service of the valley. We heard the trumpets. We changed guard. Now each other our way. In God's help, we must answer the call. Thank you, and God bless you all. And here's a passage from Barack Obama in his inauguration address. My fellow citizens, I have stand to here today for the task before us, grateful for the trust that you have bestowed, are mindful of sacrifices borne by our ancestors. I thank President Bush for the service of our nation and the generosity and cooperation he has throughout our transition. 44 Americans have now taken the President's oath. The word must be spoken, and during the rise tides of prosperity and still waters of peace. Yet every so often the oath is taken a mass gathering of clouds and raging storms. In these moments, America has carried or not simply the skills or vision in his high office, but because of we the people have remained faithful to the ideas of our forebears and true to our founding document. So it has been. So must be generations of American that we are in the midst of a crisis is now understood. Our nation at war against a far-reaching network violence of hatred. Our economy is badly weakened in consequence of greed and irresponsibility on part of some, but our also collective failure to make hard choices bear the nations of our new age. Homes have been lost, jobs shed, businesses shuttered, our healthcare is too costly, our schools failed too many. Each day brings further evidence that the way we use energy to strengthen our adversaries is threaten our planet. These indicators of crisis subject to data and statistics. Less measurable, but no profound of sapping confidence across our land. And nagging fear our Americans' decline is inevitable, and that the next generation must lower its side. Today, I say to you that the challenges we face are real. Today, I say the challenges we face are real. There are serious and there are many, but not be easily or in a short span of time. But we know this. America, they will be met. On this day, we gather with a chosen hope over our fear, unity of a purpose, and our conflict and discord. On this day, we proclaim the end of petty grievances and false promises, the reclamation of our worn out dogmas that for far too long has strangled our politics. We remain a young nation, but a ruled of Scripture. The time has come to set aside the childish things. The time has reaffirmed that our enduring spirit to choose better history, and carry forward the precious gift, the noble idea passed on generation to generation. His God-given promise that are all equal, all are free, and deserve the chance to pursue the full measures of happiness. In the reaffirmed greatness of our nation, we understand that greatness is never given, it must be earned. Our journey has never been one of the shortcuts and our signs for less. It has been the path of faint-hearted for those who prefer leisure over work, or seek only the pleasures of riches and fame. Rather, it has been risk-takers, the doers, the makers of things, as some celebrate. More often, men and women obscure in their labor must be carried us that long, rugged path towards prosperity and freedom. For us, they packed a few worldly possessions and traveled across the ocean in search of new life. For us, they told sweatshops and settled the West, winded the lash out the whips and plowed the hard earth. For us, they fought and died in places where Concord and Gettysburg, Normandy, and Quezon. Time and again, these men and women struggled to sacrifice and work till their hands we wrought, we might lead a better life. They saw America as bigger than some of our individual ambitions, greater than the indifferences of birth, wealth, or faction. That the journey will continue today. The prosperous, powerful on earth. We are no less productive and the crisis began. For our goods and services no less needed than last week and monthly or last year, our capacity remains undiminished, but our time and standing path must protect our nation's narrow interests, putting off unpleasant decisions. That time surely has passed. Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again working the remark in America. For everywhere we look, there is work to be done. The state of an economy calls for action, bold and swift. We act not only to create new jobs, but lay a new foundation to growth. We will build roads and bridges, electric grids, and digital lines that feed our commerce and bind us together. We will restore science in its rightful place and wield technology and wonders will raise healthcare quality and lower its costs. We will harness the sun and the winds and the soil, fuel our cars, and run our factories. We will transform our schools and colleges to meet the demands of the new age. And all we can do is, and this is all we do. Now there are some questions to scale of our ambition, who suggest our system cannot tolerate too many big plans. Their memories are short. For those who have forgotten what the country has already done, what free men and women can achieve, imagination, join a common purpose, and necessity of courage. But the cynicals fail to understand that the ground has shifted beneath them. And the state political argument have consumed us for so long, no one replied. The question is, we ask today, whether our government is too big or too small, whether it works, whether to help families or decide decent wage they can afford. Retirement is dignified, whether the answer is yes. We intend to move forward. The answer is no. No program will end. And those who manage the public's dollars will be held account to spend wisely, reform bad habits, and do our business in the light of day. Because we can restore universal trust between the people and their government. Now there's the question before us. The market for a force of good or ill. Its power to generate wealth and expand freedom unmatched. But the crisis has reminded us that without a watchful eye, the market has been out of control. And then the nation cannot prosper long when its favor it lays prosperous. The success of our economy has depended not just the size of our gross domestic product, but on the reach of prosperity. Our ability to extend opportunity to every willing heart, not out of charity, but it is the surest route to our common good. So let's mark the day of remembrance in who we are and how we traveled. In the year of America's birth, the coldest of months, a small band of patriots huddled by dying campfires in the shores of icy river. The capital was abandoned. The enemy was advancing. The snow was stained with blood. In that moment, the outcome of our revolution most in doubt. The father of our nations ordered these we read to the people. Let it be told to the future of the world that in depth of winter, when nothing but hope and virtue could survive the city and the country, and alarm the common danger, come forth, meet it. Give myself a breather in. Let's skip the rest of the parts because it's an hour-long video. America is the face of our common dangers, and with our hardships, let us remember the timeless words, with hope and virtue. Let us once more with icy currents and endure the storms may come. Let it said by our children that when we were tested, we refused to let this journey end. We not turn back, nor did we falter. With eyes fixed on the horizons and God's grace on us, we carried the great gift of freedom and delivered it safely to the future generation. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America of America. Well, this is our nation, our country. What we fight for every day. So, like each president or any other person we're fighting for, I'm asking you to help I'm asking you to help Joe Biden out. Help him reinstate Roe versus Wade. Will be his legacy. He will try to do whatever he can to lobby Roe versus Wade and also get reinstated. If you are smart like him, help him out. Do what you can to help him. With our any luck, we can help. We can help our country. So my point in all this is that help Joe Biden reinstate Roe versus Wade. Help lobby get 60 U.S. senators and Democrat U.S. senators in the office so we can vote yes on Roe versus Wade and reinstate it. It'll be up to us to vote who comes in and out. I know I can't change anything because my voice doesn't matter. Maybe Joe Biden's voice matters. The guys who make those speeches out there, they mattered. But maybe Joe Biden's voice will matter. So that's it for today. So I'm Bobby Cinnamon. Goodbye and good luck.